Looking at me, you might not know this, but I was given a death sentence. When my mom had gone into an ultrasound at 22 weeks, as she had the gel in her stomach, and the technician was looking at the ultrasound and seeing me, she saw something that was concerning, and she went and grabbed a physician in the practice. This physician frantically came in, telling my mother that she needed to have an abortion because my mom would die and I would die, and that my mom was missing half of her amniotic fluid, and that I must have a chromosomal abnormality not compatible with life, meaning that I must be sick in the womb. And my mother refused. She said, "I love this child, and no matter if this child is sick or healthy, this child is valuable." The physician was not very pleased with that response, and so she asked my parents to come back in 2 weeks. And at 24 weeks, pretty much the same scenario occurred, except at this point, my mom's amniotic fluid was completely missing. And as again, the physician told my parents, "Well, you need to abort. Your baby will not live." My parents said, "We will not. We love this child." And the physician asked my parents to speak to another doctor in the practice. And they had a conversation for about 20 minutes, going back and forth. This other physician said words saying, "Well, you'll have many other children." And my parents said, "Even if we have 100 other children, we love this child, and this child has value, and we want this child." The physician said, "Well, your child will be blind and deaf and have mental struggles." And my parents said, "Even if our child does, we love this child." The physician said, "Your child will have no quality of life." And my parents said, "Our child will, because our child will know the love of Jesus." And as the physician continually persisted, saying, "You need to abort, you need to abort," my parents said, "Well, as you know, we will not abort. So what will you do to help us?" And the physician said, "In all of my years of practice, every single time I have told parents to abort, every single parent has, except you guys. So all I can tell you to do is to go home and wait for your baby to die, and you will deliver a stillborn child." My parents went home brokenhearted. Not only that the physician devalued my life, but devalued the lives of hundreds of children that were aborted, and told parents that their child had no value, and that parents were taught and were told this lie. And as my parents went home brokenhearted over this physician and the others that did not value my life and the lives of other children, they called my Grammy to ask her to pray. And my Grammy asked, "Is there still a heartbeat?" And they said yes. And she said, "Then there's hope." And they knew there was hope, of course. They were always going to fight. But God used that to encourage them to say, we're not going to necessarily take a break from going to church, from going to work. We're still going to be living life as life is. And they went to church that Sunday. They spoke to a pro-life OBGYN at our church, prior church, and they shared the situation. And this pro-life doctor said, "I will call Suzanne's main physician and just see if he'll offer any tests to help you guys." So she calls up my mom's main OBGYN and says, "Aren't you going to offer them any tests to help them?" This physician responds, "The only test I will offer them is an autopsy." At that point, this physician relayed the information to my parents, and the pro-life doctor got us into the hands of doctors who were willing to fight for my life. They didn't know if I would be born alive. They didn't know the complete situation of what would happen, but they knew that just as much as my mom has intrinsic worth, I have intrinsic worth. And so they were willing to fight. No matter how long I would live, whatever the situation was, they were willing to fight for me. And I was born at 26 weeks, at 1 pound 2 ounces, and I was in the NICU for 5.5 months. And why my heart really is to be a voice, and why I would encourage you to be a voice, is because every single life has worth and has value. And that the minute that we dehumanize one person's life, a people group's, then we are apt to devalue the rest. And every single person, no matter healthy or sick, no matter how conceived, every single person is made in God's image. And so it is our responsibility as believers, as lovers of Jesus, and even if you are not a believer, that to show women truly how the greatest way and the greatest beauty of showing of showing their womanhood is to fight for their child and to be there not only for the babies, but to be there for the women, to show them that we are here for them, to fight for their babies and for that